Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and we're back here in the glowing sea, which is looking very unpleasant today. We've got a lot of melted pylons here. There's a family of mole rats and some rad scorpions hanging around here. Yeah, bit of a mess. So we're here to visit another very interesting location that you might have missed in the glowing sea, and that is the Federal Surveillance Centre K21-B. And this is it right here now. You might be thinking, what do you mean this is a government installation? Because it's just a little shack, like the ones that you see in various parts around the Commonwealth. And yeah, that's true. There is an armour workbench, which is quite handy. But there's actually more than meets the eye in this location. So it's basically a government building that has been buried underneath this shack. And it's an underground surveillance bunker that was supposed to shelter some government employees in the event of nuclear war so that they could keep working. But only a few people really made it in, and we can learn a bit about what happened here, and unsurprisingly, as evidenced by the skeleton in the lab coat on the ground here, it's not good news. So, skeleton here next to a suitcase. So this is Bill. Bill's dead, as you can see. And he basically went to get something out of his car and ended up being locked out of the bunker because they had the policy that they had to be inside the bunker within a certain amount of time of the alarm going off, and if they didn't make it, then they were left to fend for themselves. So unfortunately, yeah, Bill didn't make it. But his suitcase does have some details. So we've got the key and the evacuation plan, which is a note that is going to take me 5 million years to find, but we'll get there. So it's the evacuation notice. So this was kind of the what to do when, you know, the big one happens, which obviously did. So evacuation plan, there we go. At least it's under E. So hello, government employee. With the threat of communist Chinese invasion increasing daily, you may find yourself thinking of what to do in the case of total atomic annihilation. Fear not. As a federal government worker, you have the privilege of being locked away, safe and sound, in the very place you work every day. Just follow these simple instructions if and when the bombs fall, and you'll find yourself surrounded by your fellow employees, waiting out the nuclear winter. So, number 1, when you hear the alarms, drop everything. Do not bother packing anything, even personal belongings. Everything you need should be waiting for you in your designated safety location / workplace. So, Bill unfortunately did break this first rule. Number 2, head to your designated workplace, which is K21-B. 3, once inside, should radiation reach problem levels, an alarm will sound. Promptly close the doors and lock them. Do not open again until a second warning bell sounds. Godspeed, good luck, and enjoy your better future underground. Supervisor's signature. So, yeah. Yeah, basically, I mean, you know, realistically, I like how they're selling it. It's like, yeah, if you know, the nuclear apocalypse is coming, at least you'll get to live out the last of your days with your colleagues in your workplace, which, you know, I don't know that everybody would particularly want that, but here we are. Yeah. So, sorry about your death, Bill, but you really should have done what you were told and just gone straight to the bunker, but he does have the key, so we can actually get in there now. And we can have a look for ourselves. There we go. Yep, so that's us now inside. Which is nice. So we've got this reception desk here, as well as another deceased person. So it's quite a few like containers and stuff to loot. Oh, bobby pins. I don't think my Fallout 3 character needs bobby pins. This character definitely does not, because I think she's got about 40 million, but never mind. So yeah, we do have a deceased friend here as well at the reception desk, and we've got a holotape on the desk, so we can probably guess that this guy, likelihood is that this guy is also the person that left this recording, so I'll let that play for you.
This is government employee number 011. Screw this government bullshit. This is Pazensky. Sirens, they came so fast. And the alarm. The only ones we could save were on duty. Stevens had left to get something out of his car. Stevens. He's gone. We had to close the door before he could even turn around. Protocol said we had to. I could hear him screaming. That was days ago. We're already running out of food. This place was not as well stocked as they claimed. Goddamn budget cuts. If anyone is listening to this, my name is Jeff Pazensky. Tell my wife, Wilma, that I love her. Goodbye.
Yeah, so a bit of a tragic tale, and he kind of confirmed that, you know, the guy that we saw up there was Bill Stevens, and he went out to get something from his car. You know, I mean, that's kind of standard evacuation emergency protocols in a lot of places, like, you know, any workplace or school or whatever. If there's a very noisy motorbike outside, so if, you know, there's a fire in a workplace or a school or whatever, you know, there's protocol that you just take yourself and you leave and you go out to the assembly point. You don't stop to grab things, you just go, because the higher value is placed on human life than on material objects, even keys and things like that. It's fairly standard protocol. I mean, even that's one thing that perhaps people maybe didn't realise or didn't really kind of understand or might struggle with, is that, you know, even for us in the veterinary industry, that was a rule in the case of a fire, that if it was possible to get animals safely outside, then to do so, but if it wasn't possible to save the animals, the human life had to be prioritised. As harsh as it is, that's kind of standard, but it doesn't make it any easier when this guy's obviously had to lock his colleague out and listen to him screaming as he died. That's got to be a pretty harrowing experience. But the other thing that I think is important to note is that he says, oh, we're running out of food. I mean, we've got some potato crisps there, which isn't really a massive amount of sustenance for, and they're all kind of DLC, like, what you call it, Creation Club stuff there, but, you know, running out of food and things, so the likelihood is that we starve to death in here, because, I mean, okay, yes, he has got a pistol there, but if he'd shot himself, then it would be near his hand, so it does seem likely that the people here did, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. So yeah, we can open it up and we can take a look inside. So there is 3 levels. There's also synths in here, so presumably the Institute does potentially have some kind of interest in this place. And you can see there's obviously a lot of, you know, computer desks and radio equipment and things, because that's what this place did. It was surveillance, so they would have been monitoring for, you know, radio signals and military frequencies and all that kind of stuff. There's quite a lot of useful bits and pieces to loot in here. You know, we've got clipboards and telephones and typewriters, all that usual kind of officey stuff. Hot plates are always a good thing to have. But yeah, we can safely assume that the synths are interested in this. The Institute must have some interest here, whatever that might be. Another one of the dead government employees. And that's kind of the sad thing as well, is that, you know, he's saying about budget cuts, and we know what governments can be like when it comes to that stuff. You know, because they said that they wanted people to basically shelter here because they could keep doing their job as well of surveying what's happening with the war with China, and that was the goal. But if they didn't really leave enough food to sustain these people for more than a few days, then that's kind of problematic, right? I don't even know how you got injured, but go away.
Please come out.
Anyway, that, but yeah, you can see that, you know, we have got evidence of some rations. There's a Nuka-Cola machine and things, but, you know, for people to survive and keep doing their job for an extended period of time, they need to be able to survive. And if they're not getting that provision, then unfortunately that was the only thing that was going to happen, was that these people were going to essentially be left to die when the food ran out, or they would have to take the risk of going outside. And given that we're in the glowing sea, which was ground zero,
perhaps my sensors need calibration.
Perhaps they do. You know, they're gonna basically get themselves killed because, you know, like immediately after the bombs at ground zero, it's not going to be safe to go out there because of the radiation levels and things. So they were screwed either way, really. You know, because they didn't have any options to do anything. Once the food ran out and the water ran out, there was nothing else that these people could have done. So unfortunately, they were just left alone to die by their government, despite being government employees. But we do have some fun loot here. I say there's lots of other random bits and pieces that you find in most places. We do have a partial suit of power armor, which will be, obviously, it's level dependent. This character's really high level, so it's always going to be kind of the EXO one that we find on these places. But there is a fusion core in it as well, so even if you don't want the armor, an extra fusion core is never going to go too far amiss. And there was one of the big kind of steamer trunk things there as well, full of the usual kind of loot. We do have, there's supposed to be a magazine in here somewhere. There is also a stealth boy kicking about, which I haven't spotted yet. But I saw up here there's a working terminal. Ah, there it is. Yeah, so we've got US Covert Operations Manual that makes your sneaking better. Always a nice to have. We do have a mainframe terminal. I don't know what this does. I guess we'll find out. Might just activate the protectrons or something, right enough. Because when I'm writing my notes for these, usually I'll kind of make a note of any relevant terminal entries. But a lot of the terminals do just control like robots and turrets and whatnot.
Nice.
So okay, I can't deactivate. Okay. So can't do anything with that, but we can reactivate the elevator, but it does also wake up these guys. So we will just deal with them. Quick and easy. Ah, that activates that elevator, so I think that brings us out to a different bit. There's like a little bit behind the little shack. So yeah, this is the surveillance. You can see obviously all the equipment that they've got sort of like set up, and there's quite a few skeletons. So obviously there was a fair number of people that worked here that were just abandoned by their government. Can't really say that I'm surprised by that, given what we know about the US government and the Fallout universe before the bombs. So Yeah, not surprising really, but interesting that this is here, and it's obviously hidden under one of these little shacks that would be like a... You know, it's not the kind of space that I think people would generally live in, more than maybe stay in as like, you know, holiday accommodation or something. There we go. Yeah, so that does it, brings us out here at the back of the little shack that we were in before, which is nice, and the icon actually changes as well. Before you go in there, it's the little shack icon, and then it changes to this because you've kind of discovered, oh, it's actually a secret government facility. There is also a stockpile thing just not too far away. It's one of the kind of ration stockpile places, I believe. But I don't think there's much of interest in there. But yeah, it's so misty here, but I love this because it's so atmospheric as well. Just, it definitely makes you feel like you're not in a safe place. You know, it's everything's dark and misty, and you just don't know what kind of nasty things are waiting over the hill. Everything is just so badly damaged. I mean, we've got a car that's buried, but yeah. Federal supply cache, I knew it was something like that. We've got some beds, although I don't know if you can use the beds when you're in radiation. Some toothpaste and some weights. Fun. Set off out. Your country needs you, enlist. Yeah, got all the recruitment posters and Coca-Cola. Radio. Some more protectrons. I think I should be able to open this. Okay. Try to reset.
I'm through.
There we go. So, yep, I'll open the door. Protectrons don't care. Fair enough. Yeah, so there's a weapons workbench here, which is quite useful. Duffel bags are always good for a few useful bits and pieces. Got some ammo. Yeah. So as I say, there's a few supplies here, but nothing that's particularly exciting. What this is.
Hostile target identified. Kill.
Okay. Toy rocket ship. So it sounded like something happened, but I don't know what. That was like the noise that meant a vault door was opening or something. Just gonna... Yeah, more motivational posters, war bonds, and joining the Civil Defence Administration and stuff. So yeah, I don't know what that opened. Must have done something, but... interesting. It's funny that the flag survived, despite the mess that's everywhere else, but the flag has survived. Quite impressive, really. Maybe the switch just activated the defences, that's a possibility. Shoot that one. Yeah, I bet that's what it is then, is that the pressing that switch activated the defences here. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so obviously, you know, we have talked about the glowing sea and that there's definitely some like residential. I mean, there's churches and there's factories and stuff, but there is also quite a few sort of military locations here, which would explain potentially why it was targeted for the nukes. You know, it's, you don't, when you're gonna, you know, attack a country, you're not gonna just throw weapons willy-nilly at anything, because that doesn't achieve anything. The idea is that you cripple your enemy's ability to fight back, you cripple their defences, and targeting military installations especially is the way to do that. So it kind of makes sense as to why this is where Ground Zero was, this is where the bomb was targeting, because obviously it's a strategic location for the local military kind of establishment in this area. Kind of makes sense. But yeah, I say quite a few interesting wee locations to look at here, so I thought I would just do both of them together because they're both kind of fairly short, but interesting, you know, that we had these government employees that were told to take shelter in their workplace, but they didn't have supplies for more than a few days, which doesn't really bode well for those people. And it meant that their commitment to their employer, who was also their government, it didn't really do much to save them or to let them survive in any kind of capacity. And that just fits with everything that we've seen time and time again with, you know, the government with Vault Tech. The vaults weren't meant to save anybody, and certainly a lot of the government and the military bunkers don't seem like they were really intending on saving that many people either. So, you know, it's one of these things. It's the way war goes sometimes, and as we know, it never changes. Yeah, the weather's getting a wee bit better now in this godforsaken place. But yeah, I really do love what they've done with the glowing sea. I think it does really, you know, it gives you something that has this kind of oppressive, dangerous feeling that you don't always get elsewhere, and it contrasts really well, I think, with the bright colours that we see in the city and, you know, all the different kind of locations and having that bit of variety, which, I mean, all the games have really done that. Probably Fallout 76's map is the most stark with the different biomes, but, you know, you definitely see it to an extent in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, although definitely not to the same degree. But I like that, and I think it's good that these maps have their own identities as well, because, you know, nothing, America especially, isn't a monolith. You know, it's a massive continent that has quite a range of different climates depending on which part you're in. Obviously there's desert, but up north it's a lot wetter, it's a lot colder, all these kinds of things. So the fact that we are seeing different things and then seeing different effects from the nukes is always a good way of kind of reinforcing that, and that the impact is going to be different in different places. So definitely makes things interesting. I was wondering what that was that said 21, but I think it's a billboard that's kind of collapsed and broken down. A lot of destruction in this place. an awful lot of destruction. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that and found it interesting. I say some of these locations, they're places where you might not get sent. Sometimes Radiant Quest will send you to them, but not always. So it's, you know, it's fun wee bits like that that you might have missed. So hopefully you found that interesting and you'll come back for more. I'll be back on Saturday with the final part of the Vault Psychology series, and then when August begins, we'll see where we go from there. See you next time. Bye.